Hello and welcome to another edition of the Monday Night Wars. It is August 12th, 1996, and we are live with 2 hours of WCW Nitro coming to us from the not the MGM studios, the Casper Event Center in Casper, Wyoming. This is heartbreaking. We love the MGM studio. Pour one out, Joseph. Pour one out.
You've got the Coors, man. I don't got anything over here.
Hey now, don't dream it's over. They go.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. I'm really emotional right now.
I,
But
I
we're not.
know it's been a rough recording session for you.
Yeah, we had to talk about some real shit. And now they're leaving one of my favorite venues. And we got a Dungeon of Doom match to start the night.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. What a horrible way to start.
You know, and after I got done on the Patreon saying, Dungeon's about done, we don't really hear from them anymore. And then they go, just kidding. Just kidding. Well, I guess I should start off the night by saying that we have a promo. It's not really a promo. It's the photo still thing they do about Hog Wild from the previous night. The big thing surrounding it is that Nick Patrick's count seemed a little fast during the Outsiders and Ling match. That's Sting and Lex Luger for those of you who aren't in the know.
Yeah, the uninitiated, yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of a fast count seems kind of suspicious, Joseph. So, I mean, we'll see if anything comes of that. But right now, we got the Meng. We got the Barbarian. We got the Kevin Sullivan. And the Hugh Morris. With Jimmy Hart and Big Bubba. God, it's everybody. It's friggin' everybody. Versus High Voltage, Kenny Chaos, and Robbie Rage. We kind of like High Voltage. And Rough and Ready, Dick Slater and Mark Enos. What happened to the other guy? What happened to Bunkhouse Buck? I guess he's no longer with us. I don't mean he's dead. I just don't think he's on the payroll anymore. In an 8-man tag team match that only goes 2 minutes and 40 seconds. What? Joseph, tell me about an 8-man tag team match that goes less than 3 minutes.
I actually thought it was less than that. My note here is this match lasts like 20 seconds. The Dungeon of Doom win and Rough and Ready beat up High Voltage. That's kind of it. That's what happens.
Yeah, it's just everything hits the shit just breaks down, you know? And then after that, Sting and Luger come out. And they want to talk about, what happened this evening or last night at Hog Wild. Lex apparently can't talk, which is probably for the better. So Sting's going to do the talking. And they think that Hall and Nash are a bunch of cheaters. Bunch of cheaters, Joseph. What do you think about this? You think they're cheaters?
I mean, it's possible. It's the distinct possibility. Like you said, they come to commentary, actually. They don't go up to like Mean Gene, which is kind of unusual. And Lex says he wants no more sleepless nights, which is one word away from a phenomenal Paul McCartney song. And Sting kind of says the same thing. This really doesn't do much other than say they want the NWO. They want them later on tonight. They want a rematch against Hall and Nash. I gave it a C. It's very simple, but it does set up for our main event.
Man, that's some long-term storytelling. Speaking of long-term storytelling, Blood Runs Cold. Another Glacier ad. We got more Glacier. And he's doing the kung fu fighting. You know? That kid is fast as lightning.
That'll never stick.
Yeah. That should have been his fucking walkout music, bro. That's good. They should have paid for that. Get that Tony Khan money and start buying like real songs. That'd have been hot. Anyways, what's also hot is we got a Diamond Dallas Page match. I don't feel like we've seen Diamond Dallas Page in a match in a while, so that's exciting. Versus the Renegade. Joseph, what do you make of this DDP Renegade match which is 5 minutes and 45 seconds, which is significantly longer than our 8-man tag team match.
Wasn't really overly in love with it. WCW's really halted all of DDP's momentum after he won that Lord of the Rings match. And you can kind of see why he's starting to feel like at this time that he may need to just quit the business, because this is the only kind of match he gets now. Solo matches where he beats a jobber. He does really well in them, but the matches do nothing for him. A few months ago, the crowd was actually starting to pull for him, and now they're back to booing him. He wins this pretty easily with a diamond cutter. It's just kind of unfortunate. You can kind of see why he's in the headspace he is in real life. Oh, I gave it a C, by the way.
Well, all right then. By the way, it sucked. Yeah, you're right. I mean, backstage, DDP's getting frustrated. He's just doing these kind of beat jobber matches. For a while, he was really his star was rising. You know, he was going to be potentially something interesting. And now with NWO, it's kind of derailed his plans, which is kind of funny because he was very instrumental in bringing Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in. He talked with Scott Hall, I believe, originally. They chatted, and then he went to Eric Bischoff, and then he gets done dirt. But don't worry, Scott Hall remembers, because Scott Hall, I guess maybe a little background. We probably talked about this before, but Scott Hall really got his start in WCW as the Diamond Stud who DDP managed. So they've known each other a really long time. And DDP has kind of a fascinating story too. He, which I think we've talked about, how he really came to wrestling really late in the game. He ran a bar down in Florida somewhere, and it just kind of a really weird trajectory to wrestling. But these guys have known each other a long time. And, so he was very instrumental in bringing them over. But then he's kind of gotten sidetracked because this NWO story is just so hot. But Scott Hall doesn't forget. Scott Hall helps the dude out, I think Kevin Nash and Scott Hall get a lot of shit for being kind of egotistical, part of the clique and all that. And, what wrestler wasn't in the 90s? They were all kind of egotistical. And if I let you get over on me, I'm not going to be able to feed my kids and all that kind of stuff. But I will say, I feel like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash are really loyal. They, they remember who brought them and that kind of stuff. And they're going to help DDP out, but not quite yet. But speaking of the NWO, Joseph, we go backstage. We go to their dressing room. And they're talking. And Hogan's talking. And he's doing the thing we like.
Are you talking about soft voice Hogan?
Soft voice Hogan, man.
I like how you got as loud as possible with that. That was great. Yeah, soft voice Hogan's back, saying that he kind of disagree. Him and the outsiders, they disagree once in a while. But hey, that's all right. Scott Hall says that's all right, man. It's okay. We can disagree. He doesn't really want them to be fighting WCW later on in the night. But also on top of that, he said, WCW didn't even want me recently. They would never call me. They just left me out high and dry. Now they won't leave me alone. My phone keeps ringing. It's honestly annoying how much it keeps ringing. He says they should maybe make a new belt. And he also says no one knows who the 4th and 5th members are, who apparently are there in the locker room with them. They kind of look at them and say, hey, should we show the world? And they go, nah, we won't do it right now. Also, Scott Hall at one point just goes, you got any more of that cake? And I fucking cried laughing. That made me laugh so hard. If you want to know about the cake, you got to subscribe to our Patreon, $2 a month, and listen to our Hog Wild pay-per-view. It's a really great segment. The NWO should honestly have probably just stayed these 3 guys. It works really well. It gets an A for me. I loved every moment of it. Thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about that as going forward, because you and I, one of our big issues is that they just keep adding people, and they kind of lose the plot. I'm not necessarily opposed to adding people. I just kind of take issue with some of the people they add going forward. And so we'll talk about that when it happens. I would have loved if they panned out when Scott Hall said, you want more cake, to the Booty Man lying on a table with the cake like smashed on his back. Just like dead, and they're just eating cake off of him. And then fantastic. See, these are the good ideas. Eric, call us.
We'll
We'll
fix
book
it for you.
we'll book 1996 Nitro for you. First step, time machine. Second step, WCW Saturday Night 605. What a segue. 4 horsemen in an 8-man tag match. I wonder if it'll go more than 3 minutes. We'll see. Giant gonna wrestle somebody. Saturday night, 605, the Superstation. Be there or be square. We won't be there. We don't watch it. Conan versus Jim Powers. Who? 3 minutes, 21 seconds. Tell me about it, Joseph.
My favorite part is every time Jim Powers is on WCW Nitro lately, you say, "Who?" But
Who?
we've seen him like 17 times recently.
Making his debut.
Conan is very aggressive here, even taunting the crowd. Is he turning heel? Yes, he actually is. You'll find out by the end of this match. Conan wins by holding the ropes, a very heel move. And Shivani says Conan has done a real 360 regarding his attitude. He means a 180, but whatever. Mean Gene interviews Conan. He says he really is being kind of Hogan-esque because Conan apparently compared the two of them earlier. Conan says, "Do you pay my checks? No, then shut up." He then gives an anti-NWO promo, which is kind of odd if you're turning heel, but all right, whatever. Apparently he's pro WCW. It's kind of a weird segment, all things considered. I gave it a C. It's not, again, really even other than like Dungeon of Doom, most of WCW's like not great segments are still more watchable than Raw is right now.
I didn't think this was terrible. I'm going to disagree with you here. I didn't think it was terrible. You know, I guess he's just saying, like, yeah, I'm a WCW guy, but that doesn't mean I got to follow all the rules. And I thought that was fine. We can still have heels on WCW. NWO don't got the monopoly on heels. I thought it was fine. But, you know,
You said that like you were Jiminy Glick, and that made me laugh.
You know, Willie Mays died.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you know, but Conan just wrestling these jobbers. I don't get it, man. Up next, we got Chris Benoit versus Ron Studd. Who? Tell me about it, Joseph.
You know, I had to look it up because I was like, is this who I think it is? Yes, this is the Yeti. That's who Ron Studd is. I could tell because he's kind of got a weird physique. I'm not like making fun of him, but he's just kind of got a very, specific body. Yeah, this is a match. Benoit's not afraid of the 7-foot Ron Studd, even slaps him. Benoit focuses on his knee throughout the match. Then Benoit wins with a superplex. Then Mean Gene interviews Woman Miss Elizabeth and Benoit. Gene says he's getting a little lightheaded around Woman because they've kind of been doing this weird little flirting thing between the two of them. I actually enjoy it. I think it's fun. Gene says Benoit and Malenko had one of the best matches he's ever seen. I'd agree with that. Benoit says he respects Malenko, but he had an agenda, and then he says agenda like 12 more times. Then he puts over the Giant, but says he'll knock him down to size. Kind of like the Conan match, kind of whatever, not bad, not great. I gave it a C. I think I enjoyed this one a little bit more, specifically because the post-match made a little more sense, even though he says agenda so many times, and it was like, all right, get off the word, go on to something else. But, is what it is.
I feel like you have an agenda.
Whoa.
Yeah. I will note that both of these matches against jobbers lasted longer than our 8-man tag team match. The Conan one was 3 minutes, 21 seconds, because I don't think I said that. And the Chris Benoit Ron Studd one, 3 minutes, 31 seconds. So, yeah, both longer than our 8-man tag team match. I will agree with you that I like the woman Mean Gene dynamic, because really the woman is kind of the instigator, right? And it's more of a mind game kind of thing. Like she's playing with him, and Mean Gene just kind of, she's a pretty lady, and she's just kind of doing stuff, and Mean Gene doesn't know how to, he's like, "Aw, shucks," kind of thing. And I think it's kind of cute, I like it. I think it's funny. It's doing that in a playful way that WWF don't do.
Yeah, it's not gross.
Yeah, exactly. It's just she's flirting with him just to mess with him, and it's working. She's getting under his collar, the old kind of pulling the collar, kind of thing. Yeah. It feels like like a Marx Brothers bit or something like that, and we like that kind of shit. So it works for us, or a Three Stooges kind of classic, comedy kind of stuff.
Also, there's nothing wrong with doing like a lust angle. You can make it work. WWF just does it with no class. That's the problem.
Just don't be nasty.
Yeah.
And to be fair, WCW do it. There are some to it WCW. Let's not say that they're
It
perfect.
hasn't happened yet, but yeah, there's some really bad ones coming up for sure.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there haven't been any weird lust angles. Let's talk about the next match: Steiner Brothers versus Harlem Heat with Colonel Robert Parker and Sister Sherry.
That's love, man. What are you talking about? It's not lust. It's just straight up love.
That's all it is. That's all it is. 8 minutes 57 seconds. Tell me about it, Joseph.
I liked this a lot better than their match at Hog Wild. I was kind of down on that one. I think I gave that like a C plus, somewhere around that. I gave this a B minus, and I enjoyed this. Steiners and Harlem Heat have great chemistry. They just do. Rick takes a monster shot from Stevie Ray outside, probably because he called Sherry a bitch at Hog Wild. Scott Steiner is really starting to get the Scott Steiner body that he's known for. According to him, never on steroids. Okay.
You don't get that vein popping shit without steroids. Come on.
No, pure 100% American made. All right.
Absolutely.
As you always say, allegedly, Sister Sherry helps Harlem Heat almost win. But as Nick Patrick is making the count, Colonel Parker runs from Rick into the ring and trips over Booker, which forces a DQ, I guess. The point of this, more than anything, is really to try and enforce this idea that Nick Patrick is an honest ref who didn't intentionally cost Sting and Lex Luger their match against the Outsiders, because technically this would result in a DQ. So Nick Patrick's calling it down the middle. He's been a talking point all night, and this kind of worked to that end. Booker and Stevie are hot at Colonel Robert Parker, and Sister Sherry ends up splitting them up. Hopefully, we're getting very close to the end of this run with the four of them, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, this really works for Nick Patrick's sake more than anything.
He calls it down the middle. Yeah, there's accusations that Nick Patrick might be crooked, and Nick Patrick says, I call him like I see him. For example, here. That's something else. I think this Nick Patrick guy, I think he might be on the straight and narrow. I think he's a good guy. I don't think he's doing anything nefarious. Flashback. I couldn't think of a segue.
I was waiting to see what you're gonna do.
Yeah, I was thinking about it really hard, and I couldn't. They do. After this, there's some like promotional stills, those sorts of things from Hog Wild. We see the Medusa Bull Nakano motorcycle trashing incident at Hog Wild, which you and I actually thought was kind of fun. They also show some stills from the Rey Mysterio Ultimate, or as we like to call him, Ultimo Dragon, but they're calling him Ultimate Dragon, the Ultimo Dragon match from Hog Wild. And it was so good, we're going to do it again, because up next is the Rey Mysterio versus Ultimo Dragon match again for the Cruiserweight Championship. 4 minutes, 34 seconds. Joseph, it went about the same, but I still liked it. What'd you think?
Yeah, this match isn't as good as their Hog Wild contest, but it's still a lot of fun and easily the best match we've seen on the night so far. These two work so well together, and Rey Mysterio reverses a powerbomb into a sunset flip roll-up for the win. The crowd loves it, as they should. I gave this a B.
Don't have much more to say than you do. Good cruiserweight match. I agree, not as good. I don't think as long as we had at Hog Wild, but you put those two guys in the ring, you're going to get a good match. After that, we get more stills from Hog Wild. This time it's, reminding us that Flair beat Eddie Guerrero to retain the U.S. Heavyweight Championship, which leads into our next match where Ric Flair is again defending the U.S. Heavyweight Championship, this time against the Macho Man Randy Savage. Yeah! I don't do it as good as you, but I also don't care, as you know. So go ahead. 11 minutes, 43 seconds.
Savage is in Lakers gear, and it gets an A. Huge Lakers fan, that Randy Savage. Him and Sting, they've watched all the NBA games together. Love the Lakers. They're going to be real happy in a few years because obviously Shaq and Kobe become a thing. What a great time to be alive. Anyways, he charges Flair immediately, and then the match is kind of off to the races. Mach gets slapped by Elizabeth, and he charges her, which made me go, God damn. Hour 1 of the show is honestly boring, but hour 2 has been a lot of fun. We get the fun figure 4 spot where Flair is cheating by holding the ropes, and eventually Mach turns him over to reverse the pressure. Flair accidentally clotheslines the ref, and Mach attacks Flair outside, only to have Hogan come to the ring with a chair. Hogan chair shots are notoriously not hard. However, these ones are thunderous. So I don't know if that was intentional. Obviously, Hogan and Mach have had an interesting history. We'll say that. Hogan attests that they ended as friends. We obviously don't know that, whether that's true or not. Not saying Hogan's a liar. He's just been known to stretch the truth from time to time. Nick Patrick had come to take over the ref spot before the chair shots and mysteriously didn't see them, even though he was looking directly that way. Flair wins, and the commentators point out that Hogan never touched him. Is he the fourth guy? The answer is no, but still, fun illusion. I gave this
Man,
an A.
man, I tell you, just kind of bringing down the boom there. It could have been Rick, and you're just telling people it's not. But Nick Patrick seemed kind of suspicious here. Now, I don't think he did anything wrong. As you know, I'm sticking my guns here. He's a stand-up guy, but this seemed a little questionable. I also noted the chair shot because, as you and I comment, good guy Hogan, softest chair shots in the game. This one kind of hard. Is this because he's Hollywood Hogan and he gives you a hard chair shot? I don't know. I don't know. It's all very questionable. More stills, though, after the match from Hog Wild. We're getting the entire Hog Wild in a photage, a photo collage here, as it were. You don't even need to watch the pay-per-view. This is hurting our Patreon money. They're taking money out of my children's mouths, Joseph, by showing all of these stills from Hog Wild. Because why would anyone listen to our Patreon, $2 a month, to get our Hog Wild preview when you can just look at these stills?
You know what's funny is I remember as a kid, because WCW does this and WWF does this as well. I remember they would always do these where it's just images. And I remember just really, really wishing that we could afford pay-per-views. Also, my parents never want me watching wrestling, so also wishing that I could be watching without getting in trouble.
I hear you, man. I never got to watch a pay-per-view as a kid. So I would, as I think I've said on this show, I would listen to them because in the old days, it was just a channel on TV that they would block and you could still hear the audio. And that's how I heard Owen Hart die. So,
It's not funny, but he brings the story up every time.
It's tragic.
Yeah, it's not funny at all. We're not laughing at Owen Hart.
It's the only one I remember for obvious reasons. Yeah. I just remember Jim Ross just saying over and over again, this is not part of the show. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, unpleasant. Look forward to talking about it. Not, but I guess we'll have to, right?
Get the cores ready.
Yeah, man, I'll have to get a stiff one because I love me some Owen Hart, man, as you all know. They do, they've been showing stills the whole night, though, but then they do show the actual video of the booty man getting his booty beat up. And it's just tragic. It's tragic because they didn't put him through the cake. That's what's really tragic about it. And then they spray painted the iconic big gold belt. They put NWO on the belt. The commentary table very upset about this. I mean, I think that's actually a simple, great move, right? That belt, everyone loves that belt. That belt has supposedly been around 100 years or something like that. That's the lore, right? And then they just spray paint NW on it because they don't care. I thought that was great, and I like that angle. After that, though, we got Hollywood Hulk Hogan out for an interview. He's got that Terminator shirt on, Joseph, that you were talking about that they might have gotten threatened some legal action on. I like that shirt, though. It's a good shirt, man. I don't think you can buy it, though. You might be able to buy. What's that website that does kind of the one-off illegal T-shirts? Maybe we shouldn't mention it.
Yeah, I don't know if we should mention it because I like getting stuff from there.
Google around, and maybe they got the NWO Terminator shirt, man.
Yeah, if there was a page where they had stashes of things, like a stash page, you could maybe find it there.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Give it a look. Because if you like the shirt, you might be able to get it. Anyways, tell me about this interview. Does this Hulk Hogan interview hold up to the new Hulk Hogan that we know and love, Joseph?
For me, the answer is no. It's a little bit too old Hulk Hogan. He's obviously trying to find this character, which I do respect. I understand that. But this promo, like a lot of Hogan promos, they just go on too long and they kind of say the same thing over and over. He says that the NWO is all of a sudden important and that they took the title very easily and there's no one stopping them. On top of that, he makes a Waco massacre reference, which I thought was incredibly out of pocket because it doesn't tie into anything that he's saying, in my opinion. Then he says the NWO is going to give new nicknames to everyone, and he struggles with the word categorize, and he calls Flair the stupid little man. I gave the promo a C. He's trying pretty hard. There's some heel work in it for sure, but it just didn't stick the landing like we've seen him. Honestly, we've seen him do a really good job up until this. It's not the worst thing you're going to see, but it just wasn't what I really wanted to see.
I didn't feel like stupid little man was. I just don't feel like that's gonna stick.
No.
I don't feel like it's catchy. Maybe he should have called Trump for one of Trump's nicknames that he likes to give everybody, since they're buddies apparently. But that's neither here nor there. I also didn't like the fact that we had the why did Hogan not hit Flair? Are they in cahoots? And then they immediately just say no, we're not. I like the ambiguity.
Yeah.
Because Hogan just says that he helped Flair because when he beats Flair at Clash of the Champions, he doesn't want any belly aching from Flair about it, which I guess is fine. But it's also like, if you're gonna do this, is he or isn't he? Don't drop it. What, like 5 minutes later? I don't know.
Yeah, it could have honestly been a pretty fun angle to have like Arn starting to turn on Flair because he thinks maybe because Flair that he showed a match and wasn't there to protect him when he got attacked and didn't get attacked by Hogan. Like, you had the storyline kind of right there, and you could have put like a crowbar between the two main four horsemen, which is honestly what they're going to do with Sting. So I guess it ends up working out, but I think you could have had something with that here.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting angle where the NWO says, we've got a fourth man and he's already on the roster. They just say something like that. They don't say who it is, and then that divides WCW because it's like, who is it, right? Don't trust anybody. Don't turn your back on anybody. They're in the room right now. I think that's a clever angle, right, to help to kind of divide and conquer WCW because that's what they're trying to do, supposedly, only to immediately drop it. Whatever. Let's talk about our next match, though. We got the main event, Joseph. We got the Ling, Lex Luger, and Sting.
It's so ridiculous every time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the Linger versus the Outsiders, Kevin Bartholomew Nash and Scott Reginald Hall. 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Those aren't their middle names, by the way, everybody. So don't send letters on that. Actually, those aren't their middle names. I know. Go ahead, Joseph. Tell me about it.
Luger comes out with no Sting, immediately sparking commentary to say, is Sting a member of the NWO now? No. Luger attacks both men, and then Sting comes out to help clobber the Outsiders. A little bit of trickery on Sting and Lex Luger's part. He kind of snuck in there to give them a fair chance. The Outsiders actually have to go regroup, and then they go back in the ring, and this match is pandemonium, just all men fighting, which is a really nice change of pace, honestly. But Bischoff points out that Nick Patrick isn't controlling this at all. Nick Patrick actually pulls Hall out of the way from a Stinger splash. At first, commentary doesn't see it, but they will when they get the instant replay. The Horsemen storm the ring, and the Outsiders run away. Like I said in replay, they realize that Nick Patrick actually did pull Hall out of the way. And this makes the commentary go, that's it. We know it. He is absolutely a crooked ref. This will play into Clash of the Champions as well, the following Thursday, I believe it was. And yeah, so it's an interesting thing. And then Mean Gene comes out and interviews Ric Flair. I gave this whole segment an A, but I'm going to let you talk about your boy Ric Flair.
Oh, I mean, Ric Flair is a madman in this promo at the end. So, I mean, at the end, the Horsemen come out, they chase the Outsiders, we're all together. WCW is clicking, man. We are together. And Mean Gene takes the Horsemen aside for an interview. Apparently, there might be a 4 Horsemen NWO match if they've got a fourth man. That's exciting. And Flair says Nash is too big for him. but he should try Mongo on for size and then just goes batshit. And it's fantastic, Joseph. I'm sure you've got some quotes that you want to share that you wrote down because you are my quote man, my hype generator. But it's just it's insane.
See, I didn't write down any quotes because listeners of the podcast may remember one time I quoted Ric Flair and then Scott got real upset at me.
I don't remember that. Did you run over my quotes because I was going to use some quotes?
Yeah,
Is that what it was?
yeah, and you were like, you stole Ric Flair, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll never do that again.
See, I've stopped doing it because you always got the quotes, and here we are in shambles because we don't have
Yep.
Ric Flair quotes.
You know what's going to make us more in shambles?
What?
The fact that we have to go to WWF Raw now.
Well, let's do it. What a segue that was. My God, you're a segue machine. WWF Raw, still at the Key Arena. Let's do it. I guess. We start off with Vince is telling us that Ahmed's hurt, man. He might die, bro. Kind of seriously, like he might die. Like that's actually real. And so I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's just the way Vince does everything. They just got to milk everything, man. But apparently he's got something serious. They've been hyping this Ahmed Farouk thing that's not gonna happen. So instead, Farouk gets to beat Skip's ass. But it's actually a longer match than I thought it was gonna be. 4 minutes, 34 seconds. Skip puts up a pretty good fight. What'd you think, Joseph?
Wasn't a fan. Jerry.
I mean, who was? But Skip put up a fight at least.
Jerry ogles Sonny because of course he does. I mean, it's actually really gross what he's doing. The match is really boring to me, and Jerry says that he would like to have a one-night stand with Sonny. He literally says that. Those are his exact words. And Vince says, what does that mean? One-night stand isn't an innuendo. It literally only has one meaning. Like, there's no possible other way you can make that work.
Vince McMahon is pure of heart and a family man who doesn't understand Jerry the King Lawler's innuendos and euphemisms.
Good point. I always forget about that. That good guy Vince. Anyways,
At least that's the character.
Yeah, Farouk wins, and mercifully this is over. Again, though, Sonny is actually very good in this role. I kind of have enjoyed her with Farouk, even though the Farouk character right now is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's bad. I love me some Farouk. I love me some Nation and Domination Farouk. I love me some APA Farouk. I do not like me some gladiatorial, what the hell is this Farouk? Not a fan. Not a fan. What I'm also not a fan of is that we had to go back to be reminded about them, what they're doing to Jake the Snake Roberts, because we get a flashback to where Lawler last week, while we did get 2 pile drivers, and I like a pile driver, even though they shouldn't do that shit anymore. Jerry pours Jim Beam all over Aldo Montoya. It's not pleasant. And then Jake the Snake's calling in. He says he's going to handle this at SummerSlam. And then there's Jerry. Joseph, you want to talk about this?
Nope.
It's just, I hate it. Let's talk about the highlight of the night, though. We have our in-ring debut of our ex-con, Crush, versus Savio Vega. No wonder they're losing. 7 minutes, 16 seconds, Joseph. That's a long-ass match. Tell me about it.
So I get to do the thing that I've loved doing over the last few weeks, which is tell you this is not the first time we have seen Crush. Heyo. It is the first time for the show, though, so you are correct in that. It is the first time for the show. Crush apparently Crush is Hawaiian or something like that. He had that gimmick and would wear very colorful kind of singlets. And I think he was pretty well liked overall until the steam kind of ran out in the character. And this is their repackage of him. Like you said, he's an ex-convict. Apparently, he was never actually formally convicted or whatever it is. And yeah, so
Clarence Mason got him out on a technicality or something like that. And I just want the record to reflect that I was referring purely to him as his character, and I have been very much maligned on this podcast.
So Anyways, Clarence actually joins on commentary, and I gotta say, doesn't work here in this role. With Clarence Mason, less is more. He works really well as the lawyer, gimmick. He shouldn't be anybody's manager. He should be very specific in, certain angles, and that's it. When you see him, it has to do with a legal situation. Instead, because he did really well in that, they decided to give him way more, and it's a huge, huge misstep. It doesn't work. Crush wins a long, boring match with a full Nelson. I gave this a D.
Yeah, this is their their big game changer. I mean, they hyped this. Like, they think this is a big deal. I don't know. Is this like their attempt at being edgier and realistic because he's an ex-con? I don't know. I
No,
don't like it.
their next thing is their attempt on being edgier.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I see them.
Now I see. Now it's all coming together.
Yeah, no, I see it. I see it. It's very disturbing. Video package, Undertaker Mankind feud. Boiler room. But that's not what you were talking about. You were talking about what comes after the video package, hyping the Boiler Room brawl. We see Sunny changing backstage. There's the implication that she is naked, and then we go to we go to a commercial, but we're promised we're gonna get the naked truth. That's a quote. Next, and then when we come back, she's putting on bikinis, and yeah, I don't like this.
Yeah, they do that thing where she's like behind a curtain, there's a light behind so you can see her silhouette as she's stripping and changing, and it's like, this is dumb. This is really dumb. It's like, yeah, I get it. She's attractive, right? It's still fucking stupid. It just doesn't work. I don't mind the lust angle. I really don't. It's the way they're using her in it. It's really just the way they're using her. And it's really a lot of it more than anything is what Jerry adds to it, which is absolutely fucking disgusting and gross. I don't mind her like being this kind of lusty character and like winning over certain superstars because of it, breaking up tag teams, things like that. That's fine. I'm okay with that. She can keep doing that. But I don't like Jerry just constantly being like, oh, she's going to be naked. It's like, shut the fuck up, Jerry. You fucking suck.
That was a really good impression, though.
Thanks, man.
That was actually pretty good. Yeah. No, you're right. And we've said this over and over. I feel like we say this all the time, but we're not opposed to these kind of angles. I actually like the Sunny angle where she goes with the gold, kind of the gold digger angle or whatever. Like, oh, you lost. I'm not interested in you anymore. I'm going over here now. Like, I think that they could play that up really well. And there's nothing wrong with, when you have, wrestling is the main demographic, at least at this point for wrestling, is teenage boys. And I understand using, your female talents, sex appeal to, interest teenage boys, right? I get it. It's money. It's a business. I understand that. There's a way to do it. And then there's a way that WWF does it and will continue to do it and get even worse for quite some time. And it's not good. Even as a kid, I knew that there was something weird about this. Like, it made me uncomfortable. Like, I know I was their demographic. I was a teenage boy, and even I was like, this might be a little bit much, you know? Like, less is more in these kind of situations. Just be clever with it. And they're not. And you're right. Jerry makes it worse because Jerry's character, it doesn't sound like he's the greatest guy in the world in real life either, but we're just trying to stick to character work and that sort of stuff. He's a perv. That's his character. Like, he's just a perv and not a nice guy. And it don't work for me. After that, then we go to Ahmed Johnson's house. We're at his house, and we're for a sit-down interview, which you love, Joseph. And his kidney, he gonna lose it because apparently it's bleeding a lot and it won't stop. That's kind of serious. And Jerry Lawler laughs at him because why not? What did you make of this, Joseph?
See, this kind of sit-down interview I actually do like. Like, this is where it makes sense, right? He's not going to be in action because he's hurt, right? So it's fine. I don't mind this. I didn't like it with the Shawn thing because Shawn is in a real rivalry at that time with Vader. Vader and Jim Cornette come out every week on the mic, and the one time Shawn gets mic time, it's in a sit-down interview format instead of him going out there with a mic and really just being able to say whatever the hell he wants. This works because this is a, quote unquote real life situation. Obviously, it's not because of Farouk, but it is a real health scare that he's dealing with. So it works. I like this. When Shawn got injured, forever ago, and he had like the concussion and all that stuff, I liked when they did those. Those worked really well because he wasn't actively against anybody. So I'm fine with it in this format. I gave it a C because it is Ahmed Johnson, so he can only do as well as he can do. He says that the mental pain is worse than the physical pain. And obviously, allegedly, this kick from Farouk burst his kidney. WWF, though, really does make every injury somehow like career threatening. Like they've said it with every single injury, like lately. This, it's going to end his career. And it's like, all right, tone it down just a notch. But whatever. I still thought it was fine.
This is, Farouk's lost his, or not Farouk, Ahmed Johnson has lost his smile. Nothing? No, hello?
I don't
You
get the
there?
reference.
Oh, okay. No, I do agree with you that this makes sense because he's hurt. He possibly needs surgery. He's out. He's recovering. So we're going to his house to do an interview at his house because we're going to him because he's injured and he's not going to be in action. That makes sense. That's when Shawn was recovering, they did the same. But I guess Shawn was like, nah, I'm not coming in this week. Just come do it somewhere else. Or so I don't know.
Well, and that's kind of the problem. I don't know that that was Shawn's call. I think they were just like, this is a really good idea. And it's like, no, it's not. It really just isn't. Like, just give him a mic and let him go out there.
Yeah. After that, we got the Godwins, Henry Godwin and Phineas Godwin versus T.L. Hopper and who? That's literally his name. His name is who? Joseph, tell me about who, which I believe is actually Jim Neidhart.
You are correct. It is Jim Neidhart. Yeah. Let me just let that sink in for a moment.
Yeah, what? That's Jim Neidhart.
So Bob Backlund joins us on commentary. The idea of Bob Backlund is not bad. He just really doesn't execute it well. And like, because honestly, the conservative heel really can work very well. JBL does a great job with it later on. I don't even have a problem with you saying I'm going to run for president. I'm okay with all that. It works based off the year, all that kind of stuff. You can do a conservative heel well. It's just Bob Backlund's a little bit more like everything he says kind of out of pocket, doesn't really pertain to what's going on. Like he's going on a rant that has nothing to do with what's in the ring. It actually has nothing to do with what Vince is telling him. He loses his mind and leaves after screaming at Vince McMahon off mic something about like, what they're teaching in school nowadays. You can't pray and you can't like learn, read about, thou shall not this and thou shall not that. And it's like that had nothing to do with what Vince said. So it just doesn't work with this segment. He leaves. Gorilla Monsoon has a picture-in-picture interview where he strips the injured Ahmed Johnson from of the IC title, which makes honestly a lot of sense because he won't be able to defend it. And then the Godwins hit a slop drop for the win. Monsoon also says there will be a tournament for the vacant IC title. And this whole segment got an F. I didn't like any single moment of it.
Not only does Bob Backlund go on a tirade about morals and values, he talks about the kids contracting AIDS, which I don't feel like you should ever say on a program. I don't feel like the word AIDS should come out of your mouth on a wrestling program. Ever. He said something to the effect of that, like they don't teach morals and values, but they teach kids how to not get AIDS by using condominiums instead of condoms, because he always gets words wrong, and that's part of his gimmick. And it's just what? Don't talk about AIDS on my wrestling program. What? Who?
No, who is Jim Anvil Neidhart?
Oh, who's on first base? Jim Neidhart. Yeah. Oh,
That's
okay.
why they do it. That's why they do it. That's actually why they made that character, which is so fucking dumb.
It's so bad. It's so bad. Mr. Perfect talks to Bret Hart after about coming. I don't even know. What are they doing about whether or not he's going to come back? And Bret Hart says, I don't know. That's it. You got any thoughts about this?
I didn't like it. I gave it a D. Honestly, everyone says that Bret's 97 run is great. His heel work in that run, we haven't gotten to that yet. I am excited to experience it because I got to say, his 95 and 96 runs are fucking trash. They are horrible.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, in our private watch, you and I doing it just together for fun, we just got to Bret Hart heel. It's just happened. It's a long ways off. We get a lot more of this, man. But before the night's over, we got Shawn Michaels and Owen Hart. God help us. The cavalry has arrived. Shawn and Owen are going to take us to the promised land, right, Joseph? They're going to wrestle us to the promised land. 9 minutes, 5 seconds. It's good, right?
Well,
Tell me it's good.
let's talk about it. HBK has his good teal and black gear. I've graded it before, so I'm not going to again. HBK was apparently on Baywatch. Okay. These two cannot have a bad match. They really can't. When HBK has Owen in an arm lock, Owen is screaming, "It's my bad arm! It's my bad arm!" And I laughed so hard. He's so great. Shawn wins with a sweet chin music after drop kicking Vader out of the ring. The match is good, but it's kind of a little, too late on Raw to save this for me. Owen and Vader double team Shawn. I kind of would have booked this differently. I honestly would have had Shawn win via DQ because Vader just steamrolled him, and it would have had a bigger impact as we head into SummerSlam, which I think is this coming Sunday. I would have had HBK so hurt and, so badly hurt that he shows up at SummerSlam like all taped up, and then I probably would have had Vader actually win the title, making it that Sid can take the title off Vader, which makes a lot of sense for Sid because Sid has a lot of steam behind him, and he's also a giant man and could wrestle someone like Vader for the title. They don't do that, obviously. Shawn will, spoilers, Shawn's going to keep the title, but then he's eventually going to drop it to Sid or something like that. So it's kind of just a weird way of going about it. I would have booked this differently. The match itself got a B- for me. I thought it was pretty good, kind of odd booking at the end, in my opinion, but I still enjoyed it. It's these two men. I'm going to be hard pressed to ever give them less than a B, but the show is bad. It's a bad show.
Yeah, it's not great. It's just not, it's also this is a non-title match too. It's not for the WWF title. I get that having the World Championship belt on the line on a normal Monday night is not something they normally do, right? That's something WCW has been doing, and it's unusual, right? It's kind of groundbreaking doing that. But now I kind of expect it, and if I'm seeing Shawn in action against Owen Hart, it should be for the title. Like, I don't care if Shawn wins.
No, I disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah, I don't ever like the title being on TV.
How dare you? You're not going to let my boy Owen Hart get a shot at the WWF World Championship title.
I think he should. I just don't think it should be on free TV. That's you buy a pay-per-view for that kind of thing.
I don't even know what to do with you anymore.
The only times it works for me is like when someone has to vacate it. So you just have hey, you know what? We have an open title. Let's go and do it that way. I'm okay with those things, but like I've ranted for a long time about WCW doing it every single week, and I hate it. I hate that they do that. And they're gonna do it in one of their biggest possible matchups in late 97, early 98, somewhere around there. And it's a bad mistake. And just no, I don't think you should ever have it on TV.
Well, at least, you know what? I'm going to say I'm right until at least late 97. And then I will pretend this never happened. And then you'll splice me in saying this into that episode to embarrass me in front of our listeners. How dare you do something that you haven't done yet? So yeah, but again, we're in the midst of the 83 weeks. It kind of goes without saying that WCW won. WCW won. Did they deserve to win? Yes. Yeah. Right? Like, because at the same time, there might be weeks when we're watching, because WCW is just such on a tear because the NWO and people are tuning in, that we might go like, actually, I feel like WWF Raw should have won this week, right? I thought they had a better program. It's just that WCW is so hot right now. There's no way they can compete. That ain't tonight.
No, we aren't there yet.
Yeah, and it hasn't been that way for quite a while. Like, you can see why. I mean, NWO is hot, but at the same time, WWF just ain't doing it. It's just not, it's not good. This isn't getting me in. And, they've introduced Farouk, but he's got a stupid costume. They've introduced Crush. These are the new things they're trying. Who cares about Crush? They quickly realize that Crush isn't great, and then they just kind of put him in a faction, and he just kind of hangs out in the background because it's not working. We've got TL Hopper and who? And then they're not even putting the WWF title up. It's all tragedy. Anyways, I'm going to stop being mad now, and I'm going to end this, Joseph. Do you have any closing thoughts? What are your final thoughts, Joseph?
My final thoughts are bye, guys.
See ya!
Hey, everybody, it's Joseph. And guess what? Not only can you listen to us every Monday on Spotify, but you can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube Podcasts as well. Just search for Monday Night Wars Podcast. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us on Twitter at MON Night Wars Pod, on Instagram at Monday Night Wars Podcast, or just email us at mnwpodcast@gmail.com. And finally, subscribe to our Patreon at Monday Night Wars Podcast. For $2 a month, you get every pay-per-view from WCW and WWF during this era, as well as additional content later on. Once again, thank you for listening. We'll see you here next time on the Monday Night Wars Podcast.